thanks everyone for coming along. Here we are. I don't know about all of you, but for me it has been a long day. I was up at 4:30 this morning, went up, which is probably not even a 5-minute drive from me, to a local area called Ham Hill, which is the UK's oldest and largest Iron Age hill fort, and I watched the sunrise there at just between, it was somewhere about 5:10 this morning, and it was just phenomenal. And you wait there, I don't know about you, you sort of wait there and you can feel it's going to happen, and you sort of, all the hairs are going up in your body, and then you can just see the shimmers and the, you know, the lights, the rays of the sun, and it's almost like you literally hold your breath, and it's awe-inspiring. And shouldn't mention it really, but my next book is called Ancestry, and every time I sort of observe the sky at night, or obviously the biggest star in our universe, the sun, you know, I always think about every one of our ancestors, you know, not just my personal ancestors, my lineage and line, but all of the ancestors that have gazed upon that, and it's just, it just puts the hairs up on the back of your neck. It is absolutely awe-inspiring to be in that state, and it's like, I don't know how you all feel, but it's like you are literally bolted and rooted to the spot. You can feel your body doing that and you think, hang on, I'm going to fall over, but somehow you compensate for it, and then the elation is just incredible, absolutely incredible. But yes, the longest day. How we're actually placed within the universe. You all know that we obviously, we do the orbit and everything else is fixed, and we orbit that. You know, there's like a heliaxial dance that's going on all the time. We are spinning at, crikey, I cannot remember, it's in my book, about tens and tens of thousands of miles an hour, and the sun is 93 million miles away from us, you know, and it's everything about it, because today has been exceptionally hot. You know, it's the longest day. We are bathed and swathed in, it's literally just over 16.5 hours of daylight, and it's humbling. It really is. I'll get onto that in a minute anyway. But and it's been, I literally parked the car earlier today, and I've had the air conditioning because I've had like a 3-hour drive and a half-hour sort of underground journey to get here. I parked the car, and the temperature, where me and Pagan, who's my dog, he's down there somewhere, when we got out was 35 degrees, and that was about 2:30 this afternoon, so you're looking at about 98. And we think the longest day, a lovely day like this, it could be the hottest day. That isn't the case. The hottest days don't normally come, you're looking about July, August on the whole, because now that the sun is peaking in its highest trajectory, and you'd think again the sun was closest to the earth at this point, wouldn't you? It's actually furthest away, you know, so the heat that is booming out, and I call him he because it's the male, it's the sun god, is just again awe-inspiring. But now, from now on, if you like swimming in the sea, or if you've got a pool, walking on the ground, everything is going to start warming up basically from this point onwards. So by about July, August, the sea will be nice to swim in, the ground's a lot warmer, you know, the air's clearer, and yeah, for me, I know there are many, you've got the cross quarter points, and then you've got, you know, the other Sabbats, but for me personally, this is what it's all about. So let's sort of rewind a bit. If we go back 6 months, we had the shortest day, which is like the, you know, the Winter Solstice, and we're down then to about, it's less than 8 hours of sunlight anyway, so you've got 2/3 of the day that is sort of dusk or darkness. And as I stand here now, I'm a physical being, but I'm sure you're aware we've got our physical earthly shell, you know, or our body. We've then also got our mentalness, and some of us are more mental than others. We've got our mental state, and we've also got a spiritual self. And I'm going to relate this to the next part of my totem tattoo, which is going to be the bear. At that time, we all start hibernating. We really do. We start hibernating. Our spiritual self sort of closes down as a way of recharging. We feel a lot more lethargic. We're drained, and we go to work. We do what we do, but then we're retreating back into our caves. So we're in that hibernate stasis, cocoon-like stasis of hibernation. Then fast forward from that, once we hit the 21st of March or thereabouts, we've then got the spring equinox. Equal day, equal night. And by then, I don't know about you, but I can feel myself inside, which is obviously my soul, my spiritual being. I am champing at the bit, because I know, you know, the light, the dark is sort of emanating now. We're reaching towards the light. The first stirrings are sort of happening. There's life being born in the fields and in the hedgerows. The trees are starting to bud. And then, so it's like, and I can parallel that to, it's like a spiritual journey, because we sort of, you know, cave, we go into bear-like stasis when the earth is holding everything within the crust, and then slowly, you know, the flowers and the trees start to ripen, come to fruition, the animals are born, and at the same time, that's how I see the parallels with our 6-month journey, and that's spiritually, mentally, and obviously physically. Like today, I don't know about, I mean, I know you've been to sort of Stonehenge, but once you reach this point, it's almost like I'm in a total state of just floating. It is, it's like I cannot get any higher, and it's like, wow, everything, it's that halcyon days. Do you remember when you were children and the summer seemed to last forever, every day was an eternity? That's what the solstice, the summer solstice, does for me. And it is, it's just like I'm floating, I'm totally enriched, rejuvenated, bursting with energy on all my levels. Hiya. And yeah, just raring to go. So that is, for me, that's basically the book. That's what it means to me. So yeah, a 6-month journey. And I don't know about you, I do keep a journal. A lot of mine's done sort of on my website and on my blog and that. But I write how I'm feeling at different times of the year. It's a pity it's not up on my website now, but I'm going to have a photo shoot, sort of 4 or 5 of them over the next few months. So then I can represent myself with the change in the seasons. And obviously, you know, this is going to be the one that I'll leave up probably longer than all of the others. But yeah, so you've got our little planet, and we are literally hurtling everywhere. 93. I can't even comprehend that sort of time or space, speed. 93 million miles an hour. Or, you know, 93 million miles away, sorry, the sun is. We're going at tens of thousands of miles an hour. But yeah, the whole lot of it, the more I think about it, the more in awe of every single second that I get here is. And it's a halcyon state. And I love all of the seasons, but for me, this is definitely the pinnacle. And Stonehenge, absolutely lovely place. Wherever you live in the world, people have heard of Stonehenge. And it is, you know, it's a sacred space, and how it was created, well, that's another story altogether. But wherever you are, and this lady admitted she's been to the park, it doesn't matter where you are today, as long as I personally think that you observe what's going on, and you realise what's going on, you're aware of it, and in your own way, just to be taking time out. We're all giving thanks to the elements, you know, the gods, goddesses, various deities, for being here. I am quite obsessed with ancestors and ancestry and all that. In the book I sort of explain metaphysically how the summer solstice might have actually been mapped tens, hundreds of thousands of years ago. And I liken it, again, it's got to be that cocoon-like stasis. You know, you imagine when, and it would have been hibernation then, when they lived in basic forests, you know, when they realised that they could grow crops, you know, all of that mapping out, you know, has brought us obviously to Stonehenge being built, what's that, 5,500, nearly 6,000 years ago, something like that, and all of the other places we go to. But it's our realisation as a species and as a race of what's going on, and it's the culmination of absolutely everything that pinnacles the summer solstice. It really does. Has anyone got any questions? I think obviously because nowadays we are bombarded totally with electronic gadgetry. You know, we've got the news medias in papers. We are literally being bazookaed all the time. And most people, and I often sort of do this, most people haven't got time to think of anything but, right, hang on a minute, I've got to be here and I've got to go there. And it's just trying to shed that skin, and it's only when we shed that skin that I think we can really tune in and attune ourselves, and once we've attuned ourselves, then we can connect with our ancestors, source, spirit, akasha, you know, the elements, and whatever you want to sort of, however you want to represent that. Fire's a good way of connecting as well. It always is, because since man obviously probably saw a tree get struck by lightning or was banging some rocks and a spark ignited some dry moss or something, since then, if you've got a fire, it's the sun again. You know, it epitomises, and we're all made up of the elements, you know that. But it brings people together, and a good, you know, representation of that is, you know, the people, you know, when we've got the solstices, the winter and the summer, and then we've got the equinoxes, it's all about the sun, you know, equal to, well, and the moon as well on the sort of sun Sabbats. Well, we've got equal day, equal night, we've got the shortest day, then we've got the longest day. So once again, it's that fire that is connecting and bringing people together. Yeah, it is absolutely, truly humbling.
And that is like more or less true.
It is, because now, correct me someone if I'm wrong, but isn't that called SAD? Seasonal, that's it, yeah, seasonal affective disorder. And I think, for the majority of us, we're all affected by that, which is often why we want to stay in, we want to sort of, you know, cuddle up, lay on the sofa, but there isn't the stimulation about, is there? Because you look outside, it's either wet, extremely cold, so you are being beaten and battered by the elements. You don't want to go out, but there isn't the stimulation. When we can, you know, like I said, from sort of spring equinox onwards, you know the days are getting longer, and it just empowers you. It really, really does. And that's a good question. You know, what you've said is so right.
It affects me particularly. I'm very bad at Christmas, always have been, even as a kid.
I don't think that the word Yule or Christmas, I don't think that actually helps neither, because it's, especially if you haven't got young kids or any family, it can be a time of indwelling. Again, it's hibernation, and that can be not just staying in, but we end up we're retreating, but we retreat on all of our levels. We don't feel spiritual. We're not stimulated, so obviously we're not thinking as much. And when we do think, we look outside, and that parallels with our thoughts. It becomes all sort of dark and gloomy. So, yeah, it's a tough one, because last year, from March till September, I wrote my first 3 books. Ping, 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 one after the other. No one could believe it, and they just came out. They were all published, and I think you sell 2 out of the 3 of me, and maybe all 3. And then I thought, right, I'm just going to switch off for a bit, and then I tried writing over the winter. You've never read such a load of rubbish. And it was literally, and I knew I was struggling, so I'd get up to 20, 25,000 words. No, chucked it away, tried again, no, deleted that. And then 2 months ago, so yeah, about April, I literally woke up one day, and my mind, when it's going, if you can imagine the embers of a fire, when you drag a stick through it, all the sparks shooting up. As a creator, which I am obviously because I write books, and I've spoke to many people, you know, artists or lathe turners and all that, it's the same for them. They can't create much in the winter, but as soon as they're invigorated, and we're on this sort of spiritual and aware and physical journey, it's the sun gives us the vitamin D we need. So it does, it alivens us all totally. But yeah, by about April, ping, 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 and the book's flowing now. So I've got to get this one done by about the end of, we're supposed to be out by October, by September. But I think now I will just write for 6, maybe 8 months of the year while we've got the sun, because anything else is just not good. But, you know, we live and learn. But any other, yeah? There's a lot of people now that are, we do, you know, through, I mean, I was born in 1969, I was 48 last month. And I remember, you know, obviously growing up in the 70s and all that, it was laid back, people were chill, people had more time for each other, they really did. And looking back now, even when I was a child, I could see there was more happiness about. There was more of a community spirit. And I went for different holidays up and down the country, staying with relatives. And it wasn't just where I lived. I can remember that comfortable feeling. And then through the 80s, the 90s and the noughties, it was like everyone had to be focused on the materialistic stuff. And there's nothing wrong with materialism, but it can become an unhealthy obsession. You are focused on your watch, going to work, doing the shopping, coming home, putting the telly on, going to bed, getting up, having your breakfast, going to work, and it all becomes a blur. I think now, and obviously, places like this, you know, Watkins Bookstore, they give an alternative, and it's alternatives that people need. Even if you can just give someone another thought of, you know, another train of thought. I mean, you must get loads of people coming in here and they see it as a sort of an oddity and a curious shop, and they're probably the ones, like yourself, will keep coming back again and again and again. So once you start scratching the surface, you realise that we are living in, I don't want to say a contained world. We live in an uncontained and unparalleled world, but our lives are often contained. And nowadays, especially at this time of year, you know, people are seeing that there is another way of thinking, there's another way of being, and people are going out and they're connecting, because I'm sure all of you know, and before I came to give this talk, I sat up in Soho basically with my dog. I had some chips and a Coke, and I was refreshing myself on my own book. It would have made a good picture actually, but no one got it. And I was watching people going past, and I reckon 9 out of 10 people were looking at the floor, literally oblivious, you know. And it's when you're shackled to society like that, and that's all you see, you have to take time to smell the flowers. You really do. And it's that balance, you know, and we're at the height of the balance today, obviously at the summer solstice, but it's finding why we're here. You know, what brought us to this point? Who are we? Not just who are we, you know, in these skins, but who are we in our mental capacity? Who and what are we in our spiritual self? And it's only when you imagine flipping your eyes backwards and looking within yourself, because everything we want and everything we have been and will be again, it's not out there, it's in here. It really is. And more people now are realising that there are alternatives, and as long as someone can scratch the surface, once they start, they'll want to look more. And it's throughout the world, and you can look on YouTube channels and everything, this is being called a time of awakening, a shift. People are thinking, I don't want that anymore, there's got to be something else. And it's, for instance, me standing here now giving a talk to all of you, and it gives people an alternative, because every one of you, you might be sitting there, so far no one's fallen asleep, thank you, but no matter what I say, you might think, oh yeah, that was a good talk, no, I'm not going to buy his book, or yeah, that was really interesting, thank you. No matter what I say, it might go over your head for now, but at some point you'll remember it. And then you might connect what I've said with something else that you heard from someone else. And then that might encourage you to look further. And I think that with the positivity and the scratching of the surface, that is what's making people look further, and therefore they are realising and connecting with the elements, the universe as a whole, and ultimately those that have brought us here, which, because you've got ancestry and lineage and genealogy, and I know I'm going off tangent here, but I will bring it all full circle, you know, that's based within us. But if you look at the whole and bigger picture, which we should do on everything, you know, then it all makes sense. But then the more sense you make of something, the more nonsensical it becomes. The more questions you know, the more answers you find, it's like breadcrumbs, it just leads to more questions. Once again, it depends what path you follow, and obviously what your beliefs are. Having a fire, because obviously with the greatest ball of sort of fire in the sky, it's a fire festival, it's a massive fire festival. For me personally, you know, I called in the quarters this morning, you know, the east, the south, the west and the north, while I was standing there watching the, you know, the sunrise. And I do that every day though, but I don't always vocalise it. I think a lot of it is down to the individual, and you've actually brought up a good point, because again in my book spirituality or the loose umbrella term of paganism, which is a massive, massive umbrella term, can sometimes, and I'm not being derogatory to anybody at all, some people can give the impression of a ceremony can be done wrong. I've written a piece in my book. It doesn't matter whether you're wearing the latest £400 cloak, whether you've got the latest carved staff. It's all from in here. And you don't need to stand there bellowing, calling stuff out. You can do it, but you can also just do it in here and connect with everything that is. And by doing that, you are putting positivity out into the universe. And we all know positivity attracts positivity. I think, quite simply, to be aware of it is a good start. You know, if you can just, people will have today thought, they might have been oblivious to it, and then suddenly they might have seen the sunrise pictures on Facebook from Stonehenge or wherever they are, you know, in the northern hemisphere, and they'll go outside and they'll think, oh yeah, that could be the start of something. You know, and by them taking time to look out, then that is them giving thanks for all that we have and all that we are. Apart from that, it's down to individual beliefs, and whatever your chosen path is. I mean, for me, mine is, if I say pagan, obviously pagan just means, you know, you live outside, an outside dweller. I love all of nature, I love all of the elements, but within that I also take teachings from, I go around picking bits out basically, I do. You know, I'm an eclectic pagan shaman. You know, I do a lot of sort of inner journeying and deep meditation. I work with totem animals mainly. Yeah, so it all comes down to individualisation, but no one must look at this, not this, but, you know, paganism as a whole and the beliefs and think, oh well, I don't like that and I might do it wrong, because I have spoke to so many people that have explored and someone said, no, that's wrong, and suddenly you never see them again and you think, hang on, it's never wrong, everything is always as it should be, it really is. Does that answer that question? In a tangented way. Well, you're all sitting there smiling and nodding at times, and that's, you know, thank you all for turning up. I haven't finished yet, you know, so I don't think he's got any pillars behind the counter, but, you know, you could probably curl up on the floor if I get that boring. But yeah, at any point, because I would, if I was sitting there listening to me, and I was a little bugger, I can say that, can't I? I was pushed into the Christian church basically, and I'm making a comparison here, and I just knew it wasn't for me. It's for some people, not for me. Sitting around there and the teacher would be going blah 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 blah, 7 years old, and I was like, how did that happen, how did that happen, how did that happen? That's what I would be doing if I was listening to me now. I'd literally butt in, and I'm still that bursting child. Excuse me, can you say that again, can you explain it a bit? So feel free, please, to just go, oi, shut up and explain this. So at any time, don't go away when we've finished thinking, I wished I'd asked him that, because I will. Any question at all. Anything, you know, but we are focusing on the summer solstice. So, alright, here's some questions for you then. When you all leave here tonight, what are you planning on doing? That's what I mean. But we all can feel that we want to ask something. But as Brits, we're a bit stiff upper lip. We sort of nod a bit and we'll give a little delicate clap. But then, I bet all of you that have been to talks and that before, you'll walk away and you'll think, why didn't I ask that? And we really should, you know, because that's the key to everything. That's why we're here now. That's why everyone in the world is where they are now, because questions were asked. if questions hadn't been asked and problems solved, we would still be primates, you know. We would. Nothing would have moved on. So yeah, feel free. Come on, throw some questions at me. I do like being stimulated.
They're not going to. It's in America. That's why America's much better than we are, because you're supposed to be like the herald, the representative of the king, and we're supposed to be subjects.
I'll go now then, shall I? Hey.
In America, we're all like equal, and we're all willing to get to the truth. You know, we're not here. And I'm not going to ask any more questions because it's just embarrassing. But I don't know why they can't ask questions.
Feel free if you've got, you know what I mean? Because a lot of the time, what you've got to remember is 93%, and that's a lot of communication, 93% is non-verbal. So you're all probably sitting there with questions bubbling away, but you're pushing it down and stifling it. So, well, when I leave here, me and my little, where's he gone? Oh, yeah. We've got half hour underground ride, then back to the car, and then approximately just under 3 hour car journey back to South Somerset. And yeah, then I will go up to Ham Hill again, and I will give thanks to the sun again. I probably will be actually like I say, I've been up since about 4:15 this morning, so I probably won't see the sun set, but I'll know it is. Yes.
Do you know anything about Druid? Are you a Druid? Or do you know anything about that? It's all related, isn't it?
It is all related. I have termed myself as a Druid before when I first started out on my path, because that's what most resonated within me, and I think I've branched out from that now. But Druidry is once again elemental. They were shamanistic as well. They were seers. You know, very, very, very incredibly powerful race. But I don't term myself as a Druid now. Yes.
When did you start on your pagan path, and what turned you towards paganism from Christianity?
Can I go with that one then? I think I was a little, like I said earlier, I was a bit of a brat when I was a kid. I really was. And if you look at my website, you can see my journey. So my mum used to go to midnight mass, as most of our parents did in the 70s and early 80s, at Christmas to sing carols. Apart from that, I never knew her going to church, but she was a Christian, or so she said, because I won't say demanding, I was just always the one. If there's a big, even now, and I'm 48, so it's like 41 years on, you know, if there's a big button there that says, do not push, you know, I will always push it. So yeah, I think to sort of give her a break so she could cook the Sunday roast then, she palmed me off to Sunday school, and I reckon within a month I'd realised that I've always had a thirst for knowledge and an inquiring mind, and I was always asking questions. And the Sunday school teachers soon got fed up with me, and I became the invisible man. You know, they'd answer some of my questions, and then I remember time and time again, every time it was always me, even my friends sitting near me, he's got a question, and the teacher would be like, any questions? No, all right, and then I just became the invisible man. After about 6-8 months, I thought, right, hang on a minute, I've got to put a stroke here. So both my parents are dead now, bless them. I convinced my parents that I could take the family dog, which was a Jack Russell, to church. Thinking back, I don't think they ever really believed me, but I was away. And back then, I'd said goodbye to the church, and I used to go and literally, I was born up in Colchester in Essex, and that's where I was brought up. But the village I lived, some of you might have heard of Braintree, it was the other side of Braintree in a little big village called Sybil Headingham. And back then there was fields, there was rivers, there was woods. We could steal canoes. We could borrow canoes, sorry. We could row down the river, we could fish, we could all get together and get donated a motorbike or something. We could all do it up, you know. And so I spent a lot of time outside. So I used to accompany, the dog used to accompany me, and I used to go and sit by the river. I used to go and sit under a tree. I used to make myself little dens on a Sunday. And looking back now, I was asking questions then. And I know I was being answered those questions as well. And it was just, I felt, for any one of you that walks within nature regularly, you will know how soothing and calming it is. Once you're in your home, you've got the bills coming through the door, you've got the Wi-Fi going off, everything is being blasted and bombed at you. Once you actually step outside, it's like a... And we go back to basics. You know, that's when we become the pagans, the heathens, you know, the dweller outside, the dweller of the heath, whatever. And then my life took several different turns. And you also asked, what made me return to it? Because I've always had, and this, I'm being totally frank and honest here, you can read about it on my website anyway, because I've always had an inquiring mind. There was many times when I could not get the answers, so somehow I needed to shut myself down, because no one had the answers for me. I had the questions. And like I said, like birdseed, one leads to another, so it's totally growing. I became a heroin addict, and I've been clean now for 9 years. I was a heroin addict for 12 years, and looking back now, I needed to do that to shut myself down, and it literally wrapped me up. You know, I'm not promoting it at all. It's part of my life. I've got no regrets. And I was involved in a multiple stabbing. I got stabbed 3 times in the back. And yeah, I was left for dead. And all I was clinging on to was, there's got to be more to life. I obviously was collected by the ambulance, had a full transfusion, came out of hospital, and within 3 months I was off of absolutely everything. And that was quite strange, because I'd lived in a cocoon of my own making for 12 years, and then suddenly it was literally standing there like Laurel and Hardy going, what do I do now? That's when my spirituality cut in, and since then it's like all of me, physically, mentally and spiritually, has become invigorated and enamoured again, and I'm back to that 7-year-old with bigger questions, and I'm getting the answers now. Like I say, I've got no regrets, because it's part of my path and part of my journey, and it's ultimately brought me to who I am now. But yeah, so that's how I shut down from it, and that's how well, none of you have got up and left. That is quite a story, you know, but is there any other questions? Because we're going to wrap up now. His name's Pagan, by the way.
Who's your favourite sun god, by the way?
Crikey. Probably can't pronounce it. In the Celtic mythology. Is it Lug or Luge? Interpretations, isn't it? Yeah, when he sort of, you know, used to go in his chariot and pull the sun behind him. Yeah, I've got a, you know, a link into him. So, yeah. Any other questions quickly?
We've got a pen from the store to give you.
Oh, thank you.
As a gift, and if you're kind enough to sign some of the remaining.
Yeah, of course I will. Yeah.
And people can, if they have questions, they can approach you individually.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
then have a chat with you then if that works.
Yeah. Well, can I just say, I know obviously, you know, you're working overtime and doing this, or unpaid overtime, but I would like to say what an honour, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart, what an absolute honour it has been for you to invite me here to do a talk today. And thank you to you all for not only coming, but actually staying fixated to your seats. Now what you won't realise is, when you try and get up, I've put blobs of glue so you can't get up anyway, you're stuck there for eternity. But no, thank you. Thank you.